The walls that come up in our lives have three distinct purposes. One is the wall protects the inside from the outside. Yes. The enemy knows there's something behind that wall that you're facing and would rather protect what he has to keep you from it, because the enemy knows if you get to the other side of the wall that you're going to get what God has for you. Yes. The enemy can protect you from getting what he calls his. You know, there's a lot of things that the enemy took from you that God's waiting to give back to you. Yes. And the enemy is protecting the treasure. You know, the enemy's a pirate. A pirate goes and he steals treasure from other people and calls it his own and begins to try and use it for himself. The enemy has pirated you of things that belong to you, that God has given to you, and he's trying to protect you from his bounty. The wall also stands as a defense. Not only does it protect what's in, but it attacks what's out. The Bible talked about this. It said that there was a fiery dart that the enemy was going to try and shoot out to you to defend himself from you attacking his wall. But the Bible also told me that I got faith that can quench every fiery dart of the wicked. And there's not a fiery dart that the enemy can throw my way that I cannot stop. I'm working the power of God. In the book of Ephesians, it says, now unto him that is able. Because he told you I'm doing it according to the power that I've already put inside of you. You walking with the power of God. There is no reason why the enemy should attack you and you should fall. Every time the enemy attacks you, you ought to stand up and say, I'm walking in the power of God. That the enemy cannot destroy me. The enemy cannot hurt me. The enemy cannot confuse me, because I'm walking in the strength of God. So the wall stands as a defense to keep you out of what God has for you. Third thing the wall does, it impairs vision. When you can't see what's been spoken to you, sometimes it gets hard to believe it. Many of us have been in a place where our faith has failed because we stopped believing what God spoke because we didn't see it because of the wall. So sometimes we get to a place where we become content with where we are because we forgot about where we're going. And we become at ease right where we are. We're fine living day to day. We're fine being paycheck to paycheck. We get to a place where we start thanking God for the mediocre as opposed to praising God for the exceptional that's coming. We've learned how to adjust to sickness and thank God we're not dead as opposed to believing God for healing. We're all right with our children being whole even though they're not saved, as opposed to knowing that God's going to change their life. We've got to stop thanking God for the mediocre and start believing. And so he started cleaning his room. I walked back maybe 30 minutes later. The room was worse. I mean, the floor, I couldn't see the floor. And I said to him, I said, why is your room dirtier? This is what he said to me. I couldn't be mad. He said, I had to pull everything out to fix it, to put it back in. Because if I just put it in as it is right now, it wouldn't be fixed. I still acted like I was mad, but I couldn't say nothing else. I said, well, hurry up. Many of us don't understand that when problems are coming and when challenges are coming, it's not that things are getting worse, but what God is doing is he's pulling out all of the mess so that he can fix it, so he can put it back where it's supposed to be. You don't need to cry and complain when things go wrong. You need to say, thank God for cleaning up my mess. Thank God for fixing my problem. Thank God for putting things back where they belong. I'm tired of struggling. I'm tired of crying. I'm tired of telling God about my problems. I'm going to start telling the devil about my God. Now unto him that is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that I can ask or think, according to the power that's in me. I've got the power for success. I've got the power for prosperity. I've got the power for healing in my own body. We declare loss too much. When you are continually declaring loss, you get used to the possibility of loss. And when you get used to the possibility of loss, then loss is an option for you. And then when loss happens, you don't cry about it, you're not worried about it. You say, oh well, you win some, you lose some. And there's three areas that God talks about he wants us to love him with. He says, I want you to love me with your mind, with your heart, and with your body. It's interesting that God chose these three areas. And I have to read research and find out why God are these 3 areas. And he began to speak to me. He said, well, your mind, that's where you start to doubt me. That's where the thoughts come. That's where you start to ask the questions I don't want you to ask. But if you love me with your mind, in the midst of all your questions, in the midst of all your insecurity, you'll still stay committed to me. If you love me with your mind, in the midst of everything you're thinking, I know you're still mine. So I'm not worried about Joshua chapter 1. He kept speaking to Joshua, be strong, be courageous, be strong, be courageous. He was rebuking the thoughts that were coming to his mind. Before the thoughts even got there, he was giving him a psyche that said, you've got to be strong, you've got to be courageous. You know, the enemy will plague on your mind. Some of our greatest enemies is our mind. It's not what the enemy does, it's our own thinking. Sometimes we can think ourselves out of a miracle. We can think ourselves out of a blessing. When God says, knowing that this is about to happen, that it's about to take place, some of you need to get ready in your own personal lives, because God is saying it's about to happen. It's about to take place. You've gone through long enough. You've endured long enough. You have had your experience. You've gone through your battles. You've gone through your wars. It's time for you to get ready, because here comes when they started to scream and the music started to play, that every challenge, that every battle, that every wall fell down flat. You gotta believe in your life that every enemy is falling down flat. Every wall is falling down flat. Every challenge is falling down flat. And the Bible says that they didn't walk across tripping. They didn't walk across trying to get around stuff. But the Bible says they walked on flat ground. It was over. There was no more problems. There were no more issues. I believe there's people in this house today that God is trying to tell you it's over. God is trying to tell you it's time for you to walk on flat ground. It's time for you to stop tripping. It's time for you to stop stumbling. It's time for you to walk on flat ground. It's time for you to make it across with ease. I prepared you for your miracle. I prepared you for your blessing. Now go in and possess your land. Somebody go in and possess your land. There's a miracle waiting for you. I dare somebody today to start moving into your place and get what God has for you. I want to be in a place where I'm no longer scared of my enemy, but my enemy is scared of me. I want to be in a place where I'm no longer tortured by my enemy, but my enemy is tortured by my God. I want to be in a place where I'm no longer bowing to my knees because of the enemy, but the enemy is bowing because of me. I want to go in and possess my land. It was the noise at the end of their struggle. It was the praise at the end of their turmoil. It was the shout at the end of the sickness, where the doctor said no. It was the praise on the deathbed. When the John said you're fired, it was the hands that were lifted in the car on the way home. When the spouse was ready to go, it was the praise that was given when the door was shut. They called the walls to come down flat. God loves noise. God responds to noise. I'm going to challenge everybody here for a moment. Many of you, I know some of your situations, and many of you I know. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to challenge everyone here just for a moment. I'm going to challenge you to make some noise.